My goodness, okay? I just sweated my face off back there, okay? I need you guys to have energy, okay? You guys excited for tonight? Yeah, okay. You see what we just did there? Every week moving forward, that's the energy we want. That's the level we need, okay? We're going to have a DB meter, and Caleb, if you are not at that DB meter, Caleb is going to, shut everything down. I'm just joking. Hey, so tonight, we are going to kind of, close out what was supposed to be our Forward the Valley series. 2 weeks ago, we talked about the friends that we want to be, right? Who the friends that we are wanting to be when it comes to being fully devoted followers of Jesus. And last week, we were supposed to talk about kind of what we're doing tonight, your purpose, all these things in life, but the Holy Spirit had something else. How many of you guys enjoyed last week's worship part? Man, Chala and the team did an amazing job. Can we give it up for them? Thank you. Again, energy up here next time, okay? Hey, we're super excited. So Chala is going to be doing a worship night with some of my friends from SoCal. They're actually coming in next week and stuff, so it's going to be an all worship night. We have Italian sodas. We have a bunch of stuff that we're going to have fun with, and we want you to bring your friends. But tonight, everybody say tonight. Tonight, we are going to be talking on your purpose. What is your purpose? What are you born for? What are you born to do in your life? And so for me, I was going over my notes, and I was like, you know what? I have a whiteboard in my office, and so I asked Caleb if I could borrow this one. And so I'm going to kind of be like, wannabe Professor Tim. It's not going to be school related. Trust me, because your boy was homeschooled, and I just can't do it. So, but we're going to have some fun with it. So, everybody say, understanding purpose. Okay, so another disclaimer, okay, and I'm going to make it very clear right now because I feel like this section is going to come for me. I cannot spell the best, okay, and I don't have the greatest handwriting, okay? So don't come after me. Check your heart because we're going to learn something today, okay? Everyone say yes, sir. Yes, sir. Don't say sir. That's where say yes, Tim. Yes, here we go, okay. Hey, we're going to talk about purpose today. Everybody spell purpose nice and loud. All I heard was rah, 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 rah. I was like, y'all sound like Charlie Brown's teacher. So, hey, we are going to be talking about how do you understand your purpose and what does your purpose look like? So, just by show of hands, I don't want you to say anything crazy or whatever, but how many of you feel like you have an understanding on what your purpose is in life? Awesome. Couple? Yes, I love it. There is a very few amount. Can I tell you, I think... Okay, so for those of you that don't know me, right, there's a couple of you I've met that you don't know. I like to be hot, honest, open, and transparent. So I say some things that sometimes it doesn't get said a lot in church, but your boy is going to say it because I want you guys to represent Jesus so well, and I wish somebody would have shared with me at your age certain things in life. And I had an amazing youth pastor who shared everything with me, but there's a lot of stuff that I wish, I know now that I wish I learned in high school. And so, a little bit of a backstory. On September 1st, I'll be sharing my testimony on a Sunday morning, so you should come and sit in the front rows and hang out and have fun with us and stuff. But anyways, I'm going to break it down real quick, real crazy. Okay, so I'm going to share some things. Don't be voicing anything out and crazy, right? So, when I was a baby, I died twice, one in an ambulance and one in a helicopter heading to another hospital. And the doctor said that I was going to be paralyzed from the neck down, meaning I was going to be in a wheelchair my whole life. I wasn't supposed to do anything. Everybody say, but God. But God did something different. God had a different calling on my life. And so there was a man named Donnie Moore, and he prayed for me, and he spoke over me the life of ministry and that I was going to go into full-time ministry. And I had really no idea what that was going to look like. Obviously, I was a baby. My mom had no idea all this different stuff. When I was about 6 years old, I started playing drums for our kids' church, and I just kept asking them. I was like, please let me play drums. And they were like, we'll let you play drums if you would just shut up and stop asking. And I was like, bet. So I started playing drums. But the problem is I was so little that I couldn't reach any of the pedals at the bottom. So I was like this the whole time, but didn't know what to do with my legs. But I can keep a beat. And so they thought that was funny and adorable, so they lowered the drum set, all that kind of stuff. Everybody say 8 years old. At 8 years old, I did what was called a Fine Arts Festival. Y'all know about it. We're going to do Fine Arts Festival this year and stuff. But at Fine Arts, I decided to play drums, and I had a DJ on one side, and I had a bass player on the other, and we played 80s hits, like Eye of the Tiger, Final Countdown, all this stuff, and we just kind of made our own mashup. And it was kind of I can only describe it as it was 80s trap music. Does that make sense? Anyways, I had the bass drum. It was just thumping. It was it was just real sick. It was like the countdown video type of stuff. It was real sick. Anyways, 8 years old, did that. And God had a different plan for my life. And what was happening as I turned off, everybody say, what's up, JT Apple? He's on his way, just so everybody knows. And so what happened was that at 8 years old, man, I was going through all this different stuff. I was figuring things out. My dad was super abusive to me growing up. And so it was just this weird mix of how do I follow Jesus, but also how does my dad abuse me and all that kind of stuff. That's a whole nother story for another day. But my purpose was still being formed, right? And I was playing drums for all these different things. And at 14 years old, I was playing drums at a summer camp. And at that summer camp, God told me to hop off the drum set. And at that summer camp, we had these giant speakers on the left and right side. And the drummer spot was over here on the side. I got off stage and I sat over to the side behind the speaker. And God called me into full-time ministry. And what happened was I got so locked into my calling that it took me forever to understand my purpose. And I think what happens is not in a bad way. I don't think churches get it wrong in a bad way or they purposely mess you up. But I do think that some people mix your calling with your purpose. And I'll tell you, it's two completely different things. They work in the same way. You can use your calling for your purpose. You can use your purpose, whatever, however you want to do it. But I think there's two different identities. Let's look at 1 Peter 2, 1 through 2. It says, therefore, rid yourself of all malice, anger, and all whatever that word is, hypocrisy, living one way here and another way at home, right? Envy and slander, pretty much gossip, of every kind. Like newborn babies, crave pure spiritual milk so that it is by you may grow up in your salvation, right? So it's telling you to just kind of clean house. And can I be honest? Some of y'all need a clean house. Why? Because I have you on Instagram. Clean house. For those of you who are spiritually informed and have an iPhone, if you have an Android, there's no waste at the altar. You can go ahead and give it up to the Lord there. But there's a setting inside your phone called screen time. And if you were to open it up, what is your top 5? Don't do it now. But what's your top 5? I guarantee you, it's Instagram, it's TikTok, it's YouTube, maybe Sephora, I don't know. Someone said it, they're like, ooh, got me. But if you were to look, I challenge you at the end of service, look down past your top 10 and see where your Bible app is. Oh, but I Pastor Tim, I have a physical Bible. Great. Show it to me. Did you bring it? Let's go. Student leaders, did you bring your Bibles? Let's go. It's in the lobby, but it's not in your, it's fine. Student leaders, we bring our Bibles and journals because we believe that every word is designed by God, and whether or not you hear something or it doesn't apply to you, you can always hear something. This series that we're in right now on Sunday mornings, it's called Behind Closed Doors, and we're talking about the family aspect and all that kind of stuff. And hear me out. Just because you're single, you're not married, all this kind of stuff, still doesn't mean God can't speak to you. You can get something out of whatever is being taught. You can pick and choose, right? I say it all the time. You can have as much or as little as God as you choose to have. So my question is, how much do you choose? Another story for another day. So, screen time. What's your purpose in life? How do you define it? And what goes from there? And so when 1 Peter 2, 1 through 7 is telling you to kind of clean house, this isn't going to be a message of all right, open up your Snapchat. Let's see what you've been doing. Sorry, the Holy Spirit will convict you. You already know what you're doing because it's running through your head already. I ain't got to worry about it. But you know, right? But it's saying that you got to get rid of certain things. There are certain things that you cannot align with for your purpose to be fully alive, right? Okay, so I worked at Starbucks. I don't know if that's just a normal thing, but everybody out here seems to work for Chick-fil-A. I worked at Starbucks, okay? In California, we have this thing. It's pretty much like taste and see what the Lord is good. It's called In-N-Out. It's so much better than Whataburger, so it's totally fine and stuff. And so we have this thing called In-N-Out. I promise you haven't had a burger like In-N-Out. It's $4. It's, as a Californian who used to live in California, it's very much overrated, but it's cheap, it's good, and they rarely ever mess it up, right? And so, but I worked at Starbucks, right? We all had all these stuff. And let me ask you something, because I think for me, I was constantly making frappuccinos, I was making coffees, I was making food, all this kind of stuff. There's a couple baristas in the house. Lift up your hands. Let's go. Yes, yes, yes. Someone's purpose is life. I'll tell you, can I just be 100% honest with you? I think your first job working for Starbucks is actually pretty solid. You can make really good tips, right? The food card is really, really great. You can use that wherever you go. They have great benefits for college, all this kind of stuff. I have nothing to do with Starbucks. I'm not endorsed by Starbucks. I don't drink coffee. But all I'm saying is if you're trying to look for a job and you're complaining because you want this really big job, go work for Starbucks. Everybody will thank you for it, okay? Anyways, so I worked for Starbucks, right? And so in this process of working for Starbucks, I just felt really kind of in, what's the gamer mode? Zombie mode? You guys ever hear that? When you're gaming? Like you're here, but you're really not there. And so what would happen is I would just constantly be in this flow where I'm making coffee, right? I was moving, but I wasn't really going anywhere. I was breathing, but not really living. I was living, but I wasn't really existing. And I'd make coffee after coffee. I'd try to remember Sue's name, Sarah with an H, Sarah with an A, Ladasha, that's a real name, but she spells it L-A-A. And I'm supposed to be making coffee. I'm having conversations with these people. That's it. I felt very numb, right? You ever do something that you're really, really good at, and then you forget you're doing it, right? For adults who do this, right? You ever listen to a podcast while you're driving, and then all of a sudden you're like, whoa, I didn't know I was this far, right? Just get stuck in this routine. Let's make it a step further, right? You go to kids ministry. You learn about the fruits of the Spirit, right? Love, joy, peace, patience, goodness, kindness, gentleness, self-control, right? The greatest of these are love. And we hear it all the time, but we don't act on it. We go to Sam's Club, and everybody and their moms show up, and you're standing in line. And you get numb to it. Or worship happens, right? Chala and the team, they come up and they practice really hard throughout the week, and they do their best to kind of be prayed up and ready to go, and then all of a sudden they come here and y'all are on your phones and talking. Hey guys, let's go and get into worship. We get numb. We get into this routine of church, and we think, because I'm in the routine, that I'm safe. But what happens when you get stuck in the routine? You fall out. 83% of students, by the time they graduate high school and turn 18, leave the church for good. And that sucks. And it kind of makes it, trust me, I was not trying to go this way, trust me. I get emotional all the time. Why? Because when I was 14, my calling was to be in full-time ministry. Youth pastor, whatever that looked like. For 10 years, I was a mini Caleb. I wasn't as good as Caleb, but I would do videos and production. I do all that kind of stuff. But I knew what I was called to do. But because of my upbringing with my dad and all the insecurities that I had and just kind of just being in this routine, I was about 20 years old when I finally found my purpose. That's when I stopped. What happens is once we finally get to your purpose, things begin to kind of make sense. See, it's very much okay for you not to have your purpose yet. That's fine. But what happens is you get into this routine, you get into this mindset of like, oh, well, I'll find it in a minute, or you know what, God can't use me, right? We all have these things. Trust me. If you actually care about your walk with the Lord, these are thoughts that you have all the time, right? And so you go through this routine, you go through this part of like, okay, Lord, where am I at? Am I comfortable? Like, number one, we're not supposed to be comfortable, but I feel comfortable. What am I supposed to do? Have you asked him what your purpose is? Again, it's totally okay that you don't know what your purpose is. Let me ask you, have you ever asked God, what is my purpose in life? Why am I here? Why is Tim Smith in Fruita/Grand Junction, Colorado? I really don't know where we're at as a church because it's like we're right in the middle, so it's either Grand Junction or Fruita. So I'm just going to say both, okay? Fruita, thanks. At least it's not Palestine, okay? Gosh. Inside joke, you should have been here a couple weeks ago. But the purpose in life, why am I here? I wouldn't be here just because I'm called to be a youth pastor. Can I be honest with you? Because I feel like too many youth pastors, what happens is they go through their calling, but they forget their purpose, and then they get bored out of their calling, and then they leave the church. Okay? They don't understand their purpose. My purpose is I want to help students sit at the feet of Jesus and grow to become fully devoted followers of Jesus Christ. That is my purpose. I wake up every day so I can help people get closer to Jesus. That's my reason why. That's why I'm in Fruita Grand Junction. Because I believe that what God has done in my life, it could happen for those around me. How can I have joy when my dad beats me? How can I have joy when my mom's crying at night every single night for 9 years? How can I have this exuberant, big energy type of feel when I'm so broken inside? How can I be so confident when I wake up every day with insecurities? I just turned 30 yesterday. My back's already hurting, all this crazy stuff. And can I tell you something? The first thing that I woke up to amazing friends and family wishing me a happy birthday. But can I be honest? Can I be very real with you? I'm 30 years old and I'm single. And I woke up being like, dang, I'm single. And what I had to learn in flashbacks, I mean, trust me, all of my friends in their 20s got married because they wanted to have kids, they wanted to be in ministry, and there's this weird thing in the church where you can't be a youth pastor if you're single. So stupid. Jesus used David to kill Goliath. Calm down. Anyway, a whole other thing. But these flashbacks of, man, all my friends are already married and stuff, but can I also tell you a lot of my friends are divorced because they're not happy, because they chose to do it too fast. Can I just, side note. Just because you feel lonely doesn't mean you have to replace it with a relationship. I'm going to say something. Just because you feel alone does not mean you got to go from boyfriend to boyfriend, girlfriend to girlfriend. Hang on real quick. Don't be talking. Trust me. I see your feeds. You know how many times a handful of you come up to me week to week and be like, oh my gosh, I met this man. Oh my God, it's so great. Shut up. The boy don't even know what he wants to do in fifth period, but he thinks he can treat you well. Ladies, knock it off. Gentlemen, stop being idiots. I'll go both ways. The problem is I can wake up being 30 years old and being like, man, I'm super lonely, 30, blah, 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 blah. But you know what? My purpose in life is to have friends to draw them closer to Jesus. So then on my birthday, I go and have ginger with some of our staff. And then last night, I hung out with some of my closest friends here in Grand Junction because I didn't really have friends and now I do and all this kind of stuff. Dude, I'm 30 and it gets lonely. I'm sorry, but Riley doesn't talk back to me. Riley's my dog, just for some of the new people. She's pretty cute, though. But understand, your purpose is not relationship to relationship, loneliness to loneliness. It's what God has for your life. And what happens is instead of you asking Jesus to help you with your relationship or even with your purpose, you go to a guy, you go to a girl, you go to Instagram, you go to Twitter, you go to whatever these things are, TikTok, whatever. Some of y'all go to OnlyFans. We just go to it. Some of you go to porn. I will go down that direction. Your purpose in life isn't what you see on your screen or who's sitting next to you. Your purpose is who God has called you to be, and from there, people come around you. So stop wasting your time. Okay. So, that's a whole other thing. Lord Jesus, take the wheel. Okay. Your purpose in life. Trust me. Trust me. There are adult leaders right now that will tell you they wasted some of their time in high school because they fooled around with the stuff that was not of God. So if I can tell you now, lovingly, okay. So just so you know, like Timmy, Pastor Tim is all the same thing. So I'll go Pastor Tim mode. Become fully devoted followers of Jesus Christ and let him guide you. Okay? Tim. Stop being stupid. Stop thinking with your head. Stop letting your heart move in the emotions, everything, right? Your heart moves in the direction of your strongest thoughts. So if you think about Jesus, if you think about having the right people in your life, your heart will help you for it. So when your heart's broken, it's probably because you're thinking about the wrong things, okay? Get back to Pastor Tim. Lead with Jesus. You're going to get the same both ways. But understanding your purpose and who you are, I got friends that are 40, 50, 60 years old, and they can't get this through their head because they think their purpose is built into what they do through their work. I'm sorry, I'm a youth pastor, and I love it. It is the best thing that God has ever done in my life. But you know how many people that I reached for Jesus making coffee for them? When you're a barista, you're automatically like this weird therapist where they just tell you, and my face too, like, yo, I got the cutest cheeks and stuff sometimes. And so they're like, oh, I can trust that chipmunk, all this kind of thing, right? It always happens, right? I promise you it always happens. And so people will tell me all their secrets. And I'm like, oh, I don't need to know your business. Sally Sue, ooh. And then like it gets wild as a barista. Like if you want drama, go be a barista. It's legit. Anyways, read your Bible too because there's a bunch of drama in there too. Anyways, your purpose is not identified by what you do. It's identified of who God called you to be. And so when you look at 1 Peter 2, 1 through 2, and it's telling you to clean house, that's going to help you tremendously. Like, we'll do a whole thing on social media, but some of y'all just need to, like, detox for, like, ever. Like, I gave up MySpace a long time ago, and it has helped me so much. That's an inside joke for everybody 18 or up. Anyways, check it. What? I know. That's why God saved you from that, sweetheart. All right, here we go. So, let's talk about why we need to understand our purpose. Everybody say, understand purpose. This is going to be fun. Okay. 1 Peter 2, 3 through 6. Y'all ready? Okay. Jeez. Was what I said earlier, convicting. Lord, help us. Now that you have tasted that the Lord is good, as you come to him, the living stone, rejected by humans, but chosen by God, and precious to him, you also, like living stones, are being built into a spiritual house to be a holy priesthood, offering spiritual sacrifices and acceptable to God through Jesus Christ. So, let's break this down real quick, okay? I think the problem is it's not that we don't want purpose. I think it's just the understanding of it gets blurred, and we don't really understand what it is, okay? So, and again, I said it before, I don't think that your calling and your purpose are the exact same thing, right? I'm a youth pastor. That's my calling, right? McKinley is a barista. That is maybe not her calling, but that's where God has called her to be at this moment, and she's going to school for nursing, and God is transitioning her into that, right? We have all these different spots, okay? Paula is like a hair person. What's the real name for it? That, right? It may not be her calling, but God has called her to it. Or it is her calling, right? You never really know, right? But the way that Paula is there, sharing the love of Jesus, God's working through it, right? Some of you one day will be teachers. Some of you will be stay-at-home moms. Whatever it looks like, your calling is not built on your purpose alone. It helps you move it. So for me to be a youth pastor, that is my calling, that is my job. But my purpose in life is to help reach people for Jesus. And I'm sorry, but you don't have to be on a stage to do that. I'll be 100% honest with you. I used to stutter growing up. And I used to I was scared. I get nervous like once in a while. But I used to get nervous all the time. And so if God uses me, someone who stuttered and someone who's always nervous and all these different things to speak, best believe he can use you. And so my purpose is to help point people closer to Jesus. Now, how do I do that? How do I reach people for Jesus? Well, God has wired me to be very relational. Like, a little bit too much sometimes. But I can walk into a room and I can build relationship with anybody, whether you like me or not. But I can do it. God has gifted me in being funny. I can sit in a room, we can crack jokes, we can do all this kind of stuff, and God opens up that door, right? And so there's different relational there. I love to cook. I love having people over at the house and cooking for them. And so God's built me in that way to be relational as well. And so there's different avenues for it, right? And so for you, maybe God has something in your life that is going to be purposeful, and then it breaks down from that, right? Paula does cosmetology. My mom did it too. I don't know why I can't. Anyways. But she also loves people. And she loves students, that she's been doing this for a bunch of years. And she helps students through fine arts and all these different things. Why? Because her purpose is to help point people closer to Jesus too. This is what we do, right? And so we look at all of this stuff. And yes, God gives talents that open up, right? I've been playing drums half of my life, and it's great. That's a talent that God has given me. But number one, that's not my calling. But it can be used for my purpose, right? We didn't have a drummer. It's okay, so came in, right? And whether we see it or not, right, some of you guys take photos, some of you guys are really good with Instagram and stuff like that, and your purpose in life could be opening up the window to people to see our youth group, right? Some of you have different skills that you haven't even opened up yet because you're either insecure about it or you just don't feel like it's where God has you. But if you understand it and if you talk to Jesus, he'll open it up for you, okay? So your purpose is not the same. I had the whiteboard, and I was like, I don't know if I'm going to use it, but I'm going to use it, and we're just going to go for it, okay? So everybody say calling is different from your purpose, right? So if you understand what your purpose is, from there, your calling can be opened up, right? Your job. Can I tell you this is actually really important for you guys right now? Is this one right here. Because for some of you, y'all are like coasting through school. You think it's fun, but I promise you, how many of you guys might actually know that your purpose is built inside you going to school? I have friends, man, I'm telling you, when I went to school just for like a little bit, and no one really knew that I was a Christian. Everyone knew because we had a very large church and all this kind of stuff, and I was heavily involved in it. But no one knew that I was a Christian. And so now, 10 years later, 15 years later, whatever, there's people from my high school that are coming up to me, and I wish I would have done something. Don't raise your hand, because sometimes this gets embarrassing, but how many of you guys are actually in some sort of a Christian club at your school? Don't raise your hand. Think about it. Is there one at your school? If there's not, you gonna do something about it? Here's the deal, too. I'm gonna make it super easy for you. Let's say your school does not have a Christian club, but you feel, man, I really want to do it. I just don't want to speak, all that kind of stuff. Bet. You start a Christian club. I'll show up with the pizza. I'll talk. We'll build relationship. We'll go for it. We'll have it all fun, right? We'll have leaders come in. We'll do whatever, right? That's what we do. But how many of you know that you can actually change your campus through the purpose God gave you? But I don't know what my purpose is. Can I give you a really, really good cheat code? It's the t-shirt, by the way. Those of you are like, what the heck is he doing? See, I'm a firm believer. I love fashion, right? I don't buy t-shirts. I buy outfits, okay? Come out for me later. I don't even care, okay? But I'm a firm believer that t-shirts have a way of speaking louder than your voice will ever speak. Having a funny shirt that says your mom's favorite youth group might be weird. It might be really uncomfortable for the church. But can I tell you, when you go to school and you wear this and there's like, what the heck, what does it your mom's mean? And then you show the back favorite, you mean your mom's favorite youth group? Yeah, man, my youth group's dope. You have a stupid shirt like that? Yeah, we actually do. All right? I'm very big on merch. How many of you, what words? How many of you have ever heard of Fear of God or Essentials? Raise your hand. So, Jared Lorenzo is the guy who created it. He was a youth pastor, and he started fashion. And God told him that he was going to be able to use his fashion to reach the gospel like never before. He is one of the top 5 most influential fashion designers in the world. And he started by making merch for his youth group. Now, I don't think we're going to go that crazy. But how many of you know that sometimes the fear of talking to your friends about Jesus can be a little bit awkward, but if you just wear a church shirt, if you wear something that has the Jesus, whatever, like there's so many good merch brands and stuff, and Gianna's all about it, so you can ask her. I don't know too many of them. I have a lot of Disney shirts, that's about it. But there's a lot of shirts that represent who Jesus is, and sometimes those speak louder than what you need. So you can use that. That could be your purpose to do it. Your other purpose could be actually just going to school and like doing your best in class, right? Sitting at lunch with your friends or sitting at lunch with somebody who you might not actually know. And you can do it. You don't have to understand what your purpose is. You just need to understand, okay, God, I need you to use me. I don't know what to do. Could you help me figure out what is best for my life? It's real simple. You just got to talk to God. And you have to understand that what he has called you to do is going to help you direct not only your purpose, but how you can reach people for Jesus every single day. It's not just in your school. It's in your work. It's in your family. It's in everything that you do. So I got 3 points that just kind of really break down and help understanding the purpose of your life. How do I understand my purpose? How do I figure things out? Point number 1 is what makes you feel alive. What makes you feel alive? So your passions can lead to your purpose, right? If you are really big at drawing, right? And every time that you draw, man, just this overwhelming joy, and you're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm doing this. This is going to be sick, blah, blah, blah. Complete side note, selfishly. If you draw, like, and you like to do like hand drawings and lettering and stuff like that, go see Heidi, because we actually want to do some really, really cool stuff. We have like these 2 A-frames that say like check-in and merch and all this kind of crazy stuff, and it'd be cool if we had students do it too and change them every once in a while. So if you draw and you think that's a passion for you, go for it, because that may be like unlock your purpose and stuff, but go for it, okay? So, side plug. Use your purpose. Some of you love taking selfies. I don't know why, but some of you do. If you flip the camera around and you take photos of your friends, you take photos of wherever you're at, maybe your passion is photography, right? And you want to take photos because, man, you love that creative space. You love that freedom to do stuff, right? Maybe that's something you can do. And just so you know, whatever passion that you have, man, come talk to us. Because you never know if your passion can lead to something that can actually do here in our youth group. If you're a photographer, man, we'd love to connect with you. We'd love to post your stuff on social media. If you're really good at social media, if you're really good at like comedy stuff or whatever, man, let's put you on TikTok. Let's have some fun with it. God has given us a really great influence on TikTok, and I'd love to continue that and build that, right? Social media, all this stuff. Some of y'all are just dang funny. Let's post it, right? We're going to be launching a podcast in the beginning of the year. And man, some of y'all are really great behind a camera. Some of y'all are great on a mic. Man, why can't we use your purpose for that? Why can't we lead you into that? Some of you are like, man, I'm actually like fiddling around with piano. Nobody was on piano. We had to put tracks in. Maybe your purpose is to play on the worship team. God can use everything, right? There's like this old kids' church song. It's big or small, Jesus can use it all, right? So if you're like, man, I only know a couple things on piano, big, come on up, right? I'm not the worship leader, but like talk to Charlotte and all kinds of stuff. We can get you plugged in, right? It doesn't matter the size of your purpose. It just matters of the obedience of your heart to say, God, if you can use me, here's what I have to offer. All I had was drones. That's all I had. And God used it for like 10 plus years. Now all I have is my story. And God's using that. And God's wiring me and he's shaping me to be a better teacher, to be a better preacher of God's word. And I have to constantly work on it. But I'm passionate about teaching the word of God. Okay? Number 2. What are you naturally good at? What are you good at? Kind of flows, right? What makes you feel alive? What are you passionate about? But like generally, like, what are you good at? Again, some of you are great at taking photos. Some of you are great on social media. Some of you are great at sports, right? Like some of you are really good at a lot of stuff. Some of you are really good at keeping a conversation. Make a small group. Right? I don't know. We can figure things out. Best believe. But what are you good at? What are you passionate about? What are you good at? And number 3, what principles are most important to you? Okay, this one can be really, big sometimes. Because I think what happens is you can look at life, you can look at different things that are happening in our world and our culture, and it keeps you up at night, right? Can I be honest with you? So I worked at a church in Stockton, and in California, where I grew up, the city was extremely violent. And what happened is there's a lot of crime, a lot of murders, and it'd be really unsafe to walk. I had a lot of friends at night, I had a lot of black friends, right? And they'd be so scared to walk around, go to the park, go hang out, go to the mall by themselves because they don't know what would happen. So they call me. They'd be like, yo, Timbo, let's go. We're going to go to the mall. And I didn't know that was the reason why. I just thought okay, cool, I got friends, let's go. So I got older. I realized that their whole entire upbringing, they felt unsafe. And so our church saw the need of our city, and our pastor was really big. He was in gangs growing up and had all these different things, and God got a hold of his life, and he was a traveling evangelist, all this kind of stuff, and he became a pastor at our church. And his heartbeat for the city was to get kids off the streets and in a safe environment. And so our church, we had a church that was in the hub, the middle area of Stockton. And off about 20 minutes away from the church, we actually had a building called Lord's Gym. And it was a workout facility. And what would happen is you would walk in and you would check in, and off to the right there would be a gaming center with video games and a pool hall and a snack bar, and then there'd be a room over here where kids can study and learn, and then you walk into the gym and you go and work out. And they saw the need. And it was actually really funny because it didn't really click for me until, again, I was older, and then I started working at the gym. And you see all these different stuff. My youth pastor, one day we'll get him out here. He's a senior pastor in California, and he has a story of him working at the Lord's Gym. There was a young man that came in and had a really terrible upbringing. He had something really tragically happen to him. And he went to the Lord's Gym. And every night he would go to the Lord's Gym, and he would be there for a couple weeks and almost a month, and he'd be there for a while. And I don't have the whole story verbatim, so forgive me. But what happened was there was one night, Rich was closing the gym, and this young man with a really big beard and all this stuff, he comes walking in and kind of looked unrecognizable. And he goes and he sits over by the video games, and Rich was trying to figure this out, dude, we got to close, I don't know what's going on. So he tells the boy, he says, hey man, I'm sorry, but we got to close. And so he ends up closing, and the young man leaves. The young man comes back the very next day. What Rich didn't know is there was a bunch of men that went into his house and went into his room and locked the door and did some really unspeakable things to that young man. What happened was immediately after the incident, the terrible things that happened, that young man went to the Lord's Gym. Didn't know about it. Ladies, help me out in the back, please. Thank you. And what happens, a couple years later, this guy in a nice big suit, dressed up, looks legit, right? Comes back. Backtrack a little bit. The young man goes to the gym He explains to Rich everything that happened. They call the cops. They deal with it. A couple years later, he comes back into a suit. And Rich had no idea who he was. He looked great. He looked different. And the young man, who was kind of an older gentleman now, looked at Rich and says, "You don't know who I am. You remember me?" Rich's like, "I'm sorry, I don't." He says, "I was the young man that would come for a few months before and play video games." He's like, "Okay, that sounds great." He's like, I still don't think you get it. I was the young man that came one night after closing or right before you were closing, and I walked in and you were nice to me. It was raining and you were nice to me." He's like, "Okay, awesome." He's like, "You still don't get it." I was like, "Nope, I don't get it." A bunch of men came into my room. They did some unspeakable things to me. And the only place I felt safe to go to was the Lord's gym. And He helped me. And now I'm clean and I'm sober and I actually have a great job. I'm in a relationship. It was the purpose because one pastor saw the need of the city, because this city was really unsafe for teenagers, that he opened up a gym that was completely different from the church. But he showed up because his purpose in life was just to love people and keep showing up. That was it. For some of you, you ain't got to say a word. You just got to love them and keep showing up. They might be batch crazy. They might be like locomotive. That's fine. But you love them and keep showing up. I can tell you story after story after story of what God has done through the life of the Lord's gym. Like our church, the city opened up like this thing called Helping Hands, and we gave away 2,000 groceries every single week. Like, we were really all in for the city, and God was doing some incredible stuff. Why? Because one man had a purpose to love people and keep showing up. Like, we had a smoking section at our church parking lot. That freaked the entire church out. But there was a family, that opened up a Celebrate Recovery in our church. And all they said was, "God, if you can use anybody, you can use me." And out of their obedience, we saw people that the church would reject be a part of our church and go after Jesus. And what would that look like if we were a youth group that said yes to whatever God has for us? God, all I can do is draw. And He said, I can use that. God, all I have is my testimony and my past. I can use that. Your purpose has nothing to do with the praise that you want or the following that you want. It's out of your obedience to say, God, can you use me? That's what I did. And it landed me in Colorado. Who knew? But my purpose is to see kids and see teenagers become fully devoted followers of Jesus. My favorite, and I'm almost done, I promise, but my favorite is when I have a lot of people, usually when I go and travel and stuff, I have a lot of people that are like, yo, dude, this kid or this group of kids, man, they won't vibe with you. They're just out of church. They don't get it. And for me, it's like challenge accepted, right? Because I'm wired different. God's given me the ability to be relational and all these different things, and it's funny. Oh, this is total God moment, right? Check it. There's a young man. His name is Angel. Tonight, he is preaching at his youth group. 2 years ago, he's a PK. 2 years ago, he was hanging out with friends that were going into gangs, and he was causing trouble, and he just didn't want to do anything with his life. And he was going down this wrong direction, man. He was after like this girlfriend who wasn't loving the Lord, all this kind of stuff. And I was at that church for about 2.5 years. And the first year and like 4 months, he wanted nothing to do with me. Again, I love him and keep showing up. And he didn't want to go to our summer camp. Matter of fact, he wanted to go to Oregon and go hiking with his sister. Hiking. Anyways. But we all convinced him. We said, bro, you got to come to camp. He goes to camp. He completely gives his life back to the Lord. He had some forgiveness that he had to let go of. He had some hurt that he had to drop. But he turned his entire life around. Why? Because there was people that just kept showing up. There's people that kept saying, hey, why don't you come to camp? Why don't you come to youth? Why don't you come hang out with us? He just kept doing this. And all it took was for us to just keep showing up, and he changed his life around. So much so that he would show up early on Wednesdays, and he would help me set up. He would pray over the room. He'd pray over the chairs. He ended up joining the worship team. He was kind of like our MC. Him and Ben, y'all know Ben. Him and Ben were like our MC guys and all these different things. And we had our podcast, and he would launch it and stuff. And he completely changed his life around. Why? Because he just said, God, here's what I have, and here's what I have to offer. And God said, I can use that. So for those of you in the room that feel like you can't give anything to God, you can't be used by God, I hate to break it to you, but he can use anything. It's just a matter of what you're passionate about. So, there's two things that we're going to do. Outside, we have these cards. Next week, we have a worship night. Some of my buddies from California are coming out, and they're extremely anointed. They're gifted. And Chala and them have put together just an amazing experience of worship for you guys to have. And so we believe that purpose starts with one. If all of you invite your friends, we'd have almost 200 people here. And some of you do it, and some of you do it great. Please hear me. Don't think like, well, I invite my friends. No. Keep doing it. But for some of you who are like, I don't really know what to do, right? We put together a little card, and we have to change it, because I believe, man, if you give a card that says worship night, they're going to be like, what? All this, trust me, I get it. But we put something that says live concert. It says SoCal Collective for some reason, if they say they're from California and they're a band, that's kind of cool, I don't know. But on the back, it has all the information, Italian sodas, games, music, and more, and then exclusive merch. And pretty much, I just want to test and see. I don't know this city. I don't know this county, or I don't really know this state either very well, if I'm honest. But I'm all about trying. And our church believes in trying, and our church believes in going out into the community and reaching one more. And so, if we get the same amount of numbers next week, that's fine, because it's not about numbers. But every name has a face, every face has a story, and every story matters to Jesus. So you never know. You might have a friend that really loves music, and they might get something out of it. So on your way out, there's cards that we want you to grab and invite your friends for, and let's just see what God does next week. But on your seat, there are papers, and if I'm out of the papers, so if you don't have a paper, find a paper. There's some empty seats and stuff around you. If you're new, you can judge today's service. That's totally fine. I don't care. But for those of you that have been around for a while, I'm a firm believer that you will not invite your friends to this youth group if it is not something that you are passionate about. If you feel like it's boring, if you feel like there's something missing, we don't know. And so, we've made it anonymous. And just for a quick minute, right? We're almost done. But what would it look like if you were to write on there what you love about Victory Youth? What you don't like about Victory Youth? Is there anything that we want to add to Victory Youth? Again, you invite your friends to a group that you feel is great. But we don't know. I'm super new, right? But we want to be very intentional about what we are doing in this youth ministry. So much that Heidi is asking what sodas, what candies, all this crazy stuff. Why? Because we don't want to get something that you don't like. And that goes for our service. What do you love about our youth group? What are some things that are like, yo, dude, this just don't hit? Tell me. I don't get offended. What are some things that you want on there? And what we'll do is we'll come together as a team and say, okay, let's see how this works. Let's figure out what we want to do. Let's have fun with it. But again, understanding what our purpose for Victory Youth is we want to see Grand Junction and all the other places around come to Jesus. We love them and we keep showing up, right? Every kid has a story. Let this be a spot for them to tell it. There's a tote bin. It's backstage because I suck at spray painting. But we'll bring it out next week. And I'm a firm believer that there are some people in the room tonight, and there are some people that will be in the room in the future that are addicted to stuff. And all it is there's a tub starting next week that will be brought out. And I call it the no questions asked tub. It's a tub where it's open. It's like the lid. There's like a hole in the lid, and I'm a big believer. Our church used to do it, and I mean people would drop everything in there. But I believe that tote bin will have it somewhere where people can, drop what they need to. But some of you in the room, you're addicted to weed. You're addicted to vaping, you're addicted to some sort of drug, you're addicted to whatever, right? I mean, we had a kid who was addicted to pornography and he dropped his phone in it. Like, it's wild. But some of you are addicted to stuff and you feel like you can't be set free from it. And that tub is for you. Some people, they'll write what they're addicted to and they put it in, and some people ask for help and all this stuff, but can I just be honest with you? If you're in the room and you're addicted to something, and it's causing you to hold weight away from the Lord, let's walk this out. Let's figure this out. Some of you are addicted to relationships and you need to be broken off of it. You need to be set free from it. Some of you are addicted to pornography. You're addicted to vaping, right? We can be simple. You're addicted to gossiping. You're addicted to social media, whatever the case may be, right? But you're addicted to something. Now, for some of you are like, I'm not. Bet awesome. Let's walk with those who are struggling. So next week we'll have a tote bin, and we're going to believe that our purpose is to see kids come to Jesus. You'll be surprised what gets laid at this altar. But again, we just love him and keep showing up. We do our part. And your part as students is to understand that your purpose can be whatever God has called you to be. So, I went way over time. Sorry. Not sorry. Whatever. But take a quick moment. Charlie will keep playing. Write whatever you need. And then what we're going to do is I'm just going to ask you guys, when you are done with it, if you guys can just over here on the camera stand thing right here, just set it right there on your way out, okay? Don't be all crazy. You don't have to do it right now, but just write it out and set it down and kind of go from there. I'm going to just do it really quickly. McKinley and Gianna, I'm so sorry. I was going to have them do the announcements, but I wasn't planning to go this somber, so I apologize. Keep playing if you don't mind, Charlie, but we have some events that are coming up that we want you to be a part of. Obviously, the worship night is next week. Gianna, can you come up here real quick because you're wearing the hoodie? We got merch that we are launching next week. And so I'll put it this way. These t-shirts are free. So when you come next week, you get a free t-shirt unless they're like, once they're out, they're out. It's exclusive merch and stuff like that. But the hoodies are $20. The front says Victory Youth and the back is Forward the Valley, because we believe that we are going to be at the front of narrating Jesus to our valley. So make sure you guys have that. Invite your friends too. We have a worship night. We got Italian sodas. We have a bunch of fun stuff that are happening next week. Everyone say September. Everyone say September. Yeah, bet. Hey, in September we have our house party. And so we're going to do it over at the duplex here on the property and stuff. So that's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to do an outdoor movie night. We're going to have soda and candy and all that kind of fun stuff. And we're going to do a scavenger hunt. It'll be legit.